Consumers are organisms that receive energy by consuming other organisms. Consumers dominate most of the food chain. They have an important role within ecosystems such as balancing the food chain by keeping in an animal population as a responsible number. Without a proper balance in an ecosystem can collapse.
Biotic and abiotic are the two essential factors responsible for shaping the ecosystem. The biotic factors refer to the living components of an ecosystem, and the abiotic factors refer to the non-living chemical and physical components of the ecosystem. Therefore, both the abiotic and biotic resources affect survival and reproduction process.
Furthermore, both these components are reliant on each other. If one of the factors is removed or altered, its repercussions will be faced by the entire ecosystem. Without a doubt, abiotic factors directly affect the survival of organisms. Watch and explore what role do abiotic and biotic resources play in the ecosystem.
Scientific name Ecosquala. Even though they all live in Africa, each species of zebra has its plain zebras live in the treeless grasslands and woodlands of eastern and southern Africa. The gravy zebras live in the arid grasslands at Ethiopia and northern Kenya. The mountain zebra is found in South America, Namibia, and Angola. Climate. Africa is a very large continent with a variety of habitats. It also has just two seasons. In the dry season from October to March, not much rain falls and plants grow slowly. In the wet season, there is much rain, plants grow very well, and animals have plenty to eat and drink. Components of the zebra environment include algae, bacteria, and small zooplankton and predators such as fish, carps, and birds. Factors are water, oxygen, and temperature. These factors are important to zebras because they prevent them to be overpopulated and give them water to drink to be alive. Position in the food chain. Herbivores, almost 90% of their diet is made up of grass, and they also eat leaves and twigs. They are primary consumers because they are eaten by the secondary consumer. They play an important role because animals such as cheetahs, hyenas, and lions will not be able to eat and survive.
Scientific name Giraffe. Habitat. They can habitat savannas, grasslands, or open woodlands. They prefer areas enriched with acacia growth. Climate. The climate where a giraffe lives is wet enough to sustain a smattering of trees and shrubs, but too dry of woodlands of any kind. The biotic factors. The biotic factors of the savanna can include plants like babo and jackberry tree. Also, it includes animals like emu, lion, cheetah, and the African wild dog. The abiotic factors. The abiotic factors where the giraffe live can include rainfall, soil, and climate change. The position in the food chain are herbivores. In the wild, giraffes primarily suck leaves and twigs of the acacia, mimosa, and wild apricot trees. Lions are the primary predators of the giraffes. The type of consumer. They are secondary consumers because they use their large neck to feed on plants. The importance in the food chain of the giraffes is that they are classified as consumers. They are taller than the most of their neighbors, making it easier to find food without putting up a fight.
Lion. Scientific name Panthera leo. is absent from rainforests. They prefer grassy plants, savannas, and scrubland of sub-Saharan Africa. Climate. Lions live in savanna regions which have temperatures between 20 and 30 degrees Celsius. The biotic factors then can be trees, grasses, mosses, or others, as are some types of producers found in the savanna. There are other organisms such as insects, fungi, and larger animals. The abiotic factors are climate, soil, topography, and natural disturbance. The position they have in the food chain are carnivores, is that they eat flesh and meat. Hyenas will sometimes fight lions for food, but will usually lose out to the bigger, stronger lion. Consumer types. They can be considered as secondary consumers since they eat primary consumers. The importance in the food chain is that they help to regulate numbers of the most dominant herbivores, species such as the zebras or buffaloes.
Camel, scientific name, bacterial camel. Habitat. The bacterial camel lives in Central Asia. They are usually found in the desert, prairie, or steppe. Climate. True, many people think that camels only live in hot climates. They do well in temperature range from 20 degrees Fahrenheit to 120 degrees Fahrenheit. Biotic factors. The biotic factors are all the living things in an ecosystem. In this case, the camel can be a biotic factor or the animals and plants that surround it. Abiotic factor. Deserts are characterized by the lack of rainfall. Most deserts get around 10 inches of rain per year. Deserts get a lot of sunlight due to the low humidity and the lack of tall plants. Position in the food chain. Herbivores eat grass, grains, wheat, and oats. The main predator of the camel is the wolf. Consumer type. They are the primary consumer. They are capable of storing months of water in the humps on their backs. The importance in the food chain. They have a peculiar role in the food chain. It has a provision of food to the people living in the harsh climate, especially to the deep desert population. It has an ability to perform and thrive well in those climates where even the survival of other livestock species is difficult.
At La Pastora, we couldn't find pigs, but we find the nearest species that is jabalí.
Pig. Well, the scientific name of the pig is sus. Their habitat is domesticated, found nearly everywhere except in Antarctica. While habitat is generally moist forests, swamps, and shrublands, especially oak forests and regions where reds are abundant. Climate, as we previously said, pigs can be found everywhere except in Antarctica. They prefer to live in warmer climate, an area where a certain temperature and weather conditions. Also, there are many farm-raised pigs that live in cooler climates and survive just fine. The biotic factors is that pigs can be found also in farms. The biotic factors can be the plants they eat and the animals that can include cows, chickens, rabbits, and others. The abiotic factors include the soil and climate change. The position in the food chain. They are omnivores and herbivores, which means that they consume both plants and insects. They primarily eat leaves, roots, fruits, and flowers, in addition to some insects and fish. They shots and pigs can be taken by dogs, coyotes, bobcats, other medium-sized carnivores like raccoons. Their consumer type, they can be considered secondary consumers because they eat insects and some of the insects eat plants. The importance in the food chain. They play an important role in managing the ecosystem and maintaining biodiversity by draining and through disturbing soil. They can create areas for new plant colonization, and they also spread fruit plants by dispersing their seeds. Fish are the ducks. The scientific name is Anas plantarinchus. The habitat is that they can be found in wetlands, marshes, ponds, rivers, lakes, and oceans. This is because they love the water. Climate. They usually travel to warmer areas or where the water does not freeze so that they can rest and raise their young. They can be found everywhere in the world except in the Antarctica, which is too cold for them. The biotic factors. Some of the biotic factors where dogs live can be the neighbor animals like the birds or insects. Also, another biotic factor are the plants that surround them. The abiotic factors include water, climate change, and soil. The position in the food chain. They are omnivorous and herbivorous. Food dogs regularly eat include snails, worms, slugs, mollusks, grass, leaves, and weeds. Red foxes are the primary predator, limiting dog production in the prairie. Consumer type. When they eat plants, they are primary consumers, and they eat insects, they are secondary consumers. The importance in the food chain. They help the environment because they clean the chemicals from the water so other animals don't die to get seriously sick.
For the production of this video, we went to La Pastora that has 103 species and more than 600 animals that are exhibited in natural spaces, very consistent with its original environment. The importance of this video was to investigate the factors that influence biodiversity, community structure, and the distribution and habitats of species. These factors include interactions with the abiotic world and the diverse array of interactions that occur between species. Species interactions, including competition, predation, herbivory, parasitism, and mutualism, are the basic for most of the research in community ecology. In conclusion, we learn more about the characteristics of some animals, like the pig, dog, lion, giraffe, zebra, and camel. We had the opportunity to see them in their natural habitats and appreciate their natural behavior. Thanks to this, we make us question about their classification, and through that, we learn more. Some of the topics that we saw were biotic and abiotic factors, ecosystem, producers and consumers, and also ecosystems of Mexico.